So in this video, I am going to create like a controllable disco. Okay, so I'm still working with my disco here. I've got my push button disco code here. I'm going to alter it so I can use this analog dial here. I'm going to use that analog dial to be able to turn the intensity up and down. Okay, so I'm going to be like a DJ. Now we'll just go through this step by step, altering it as we need to. Now we've still got a green LED, we've still got a red LED. We don't have a button anymore. What we have is a dial. So I'm just going to call that constant dial. Now it's not a digital dial, it's an analog dial. Now when you're naming digital things, it's fine. You can just call it number 7, number 3. When you're naming analog things, you need to start with the letter A, which stands for analog, and then you need to name the analog pin that it plugs into. Now I've plugged this into analog pin 2 for no good reason, just because that's the one I used. Analog, name pin analog 2, and I'm going to name it dial. Okay, now I need to create a variable because my disco is going to change. It's going to vary depending on how I turn that knob. So I'll call that variable dial state, not button state. We're gonna figure out what state the dial is in. Okay, we've created a variable to read the dial's status. Okay, let's have a look. Put your setup code here. Green is an output, red is an output, dial is an input, initialize port A2 as an input. Okay, you can see I'm trying to keep up to date here with both my code and my comments. Please do the same. Okay, put your main code here. Now this is where we define what our variable dial state means. Now we've used this before. We said that button state was a digital read of button. But obviously this isn't going to be a digital read because this isn't a digital input. It's an analog input. So it's going to be an analog read. And it's not going to be an analog read of button. It's going to be an analog read of dial, which is what I named it up here. I named it dial. Okay, so define dial state as a digital read of the dial. Okay, so I'm going to turn the dial here. Okay, so this is where things get cool, because we can say if the dial state. Now, everything we've done so far has been equal to, two equal signs, which means either it's on or it's off, high voltage or low voltage. But when it comes to these analog dials, you can have a value anywhere between 0 and 1023. So we can start using less thans or greater thans. Now, I used my my analog tester that I've shown you before, and I know that if this dial's turned all the way to the left, which I think is the off switch, the value of the analog switch is 1023. If I turn it to the right, the value all the way to the right is 0. So I'm in off state when I'm in 1023, and I'm in on state when I'm all the way to the right. Now, I want my disco to turn on the moment I start turning the dial to the right. So if the dial state is less than, I'll choose a number that's close to 1023, but not quite. That means if someone accidentally bumps it a little bit, my disco won't start. So 1020. Yeah, that looks about right. So that means that all the way over here is 1023. If someone turns it just a little bit, 1022, 1020, 1020, and then if they turn it one more notch, 1019, that's when my disco is going to start. All right. Well, we should be in business, I hope. I'll just save this as something else. Save this as dial disco. Okay, and I'm going to upload that. Now, it's not going to work, never does, but we've got to give it a try. Alright, so it uploaded. There's my knob there. Okay, I'm just going to try to turn that a little bit, see if our disco starts. Oh, first go. Alright, and you can see I've only turned the knob just a little bit and the disco started. If I turn the knob more, the disco continues. Nothing changes here. As long as the dial is moved a little bit off the left, our disco is going to keep running. Okay. When I've moved it all the way to I've moved it all the way to the left now, and our disco stopped on the red. If I turn it back, disco starts again. Okay, but I wanted to go one step further with this, so I wanted to show you one more thing that we could do. We could set our delay to be variable. So at the moment, it just goes red for 1 second, green for 1 second, red for 1 second, green for 1 second. But what if we set the delay so that the delay was equal to the dial's value? So when you turned it on just a little bit, the delay would be 1020. But as you turned it further and further, the delay would be 900, 800, 700, 600, 500. That would be cool. So I'm going to do that by setting the delay to the dial state. The dial state is that number. We've set that dial state here as that number. All right. Fingers crossed. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's see what happens. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, that's just turned on a fraction. Now, I'm hoping, where's our red light? Just try to turn that red light around so we can see what's going to happen. Okay, here we go. Turning the knob. Disco. You can see if we go far enough here. Okay. You get the basic idea here. You can lower the disco right down. You can get the disco really pumping. Okay, so there's something that you can do with analog inputs. Start thinking about that, because analog inputs, there's a whole bunch of them that all have that variable state. So we could have a disco that got more exciting when it got louder. We've got a sound sensor here. So if the music gets louder, the thing starts going crazier. We've got a flame sensor here. So if everyone puts their lighters up in the air, the disco gets more exciting. Whatever. There's your basic idea with analog inputs. That's it.